What's going on, everybody? Hail. Good Tuesday night here. Looks like I have a good internet tonight, so should be pretty smooth sailing compared to last week. I apologize, that was absolutely brutal. But looks like we're good to go tonight. No crazy storms or anything in the middle of nowhere where I'm at. Yeah, we have a zombie boy here. Woo, what's going on? Thank you for joining. All right. So first thing I want to talk about is well, let's get into some recommendations. One of the things that I mentioned, a purpose behind this stream is to not only just talk about what's going on in the indie space and in pop culture and all of that, um, but to also talk about what I actually like, give recommendations to people because let's be honest, a lot of the popular YouTube channels out there strictly just complain. They just talk about what they don't like, why they don't like it, at nauseum, essentially. And I want to actually give people just some suggestions from things that have entertained me because there's nothing better than getting a recommendation from someone. You go and watch a film or a TV series, with your family or with your wife, and you end up really, really loving it. You end up really appreciating that. That's a lot better than dwelling on kind of the shitty landscape that we have today when it comes to mainstream films, TV, and all of that. So, the other thing too is everyone's so hyper focused on, what's coming out right now or about to come out. We have decades of fantastic entertainment out there that most people aren't even aware of. Like, there's not even enough time in the day, day after day, to consume all the fantastic entertainment that we're aware of and that a lot of us aren't aware of. And so I want to be able to put a spotlight on some things that folks may not be aware of that could give them hours or days or weeks of entertainment that they didn't know was out there. Um, so that they can, have some enjoyment from that versus just being in despair about how there's nothing new coming out. Man, screw new stuff when it comes to a lot of the mediums. Again, when it comes to like Star Trek and a lot of properties like that, I mean, you can consume the older material just over and over, and it's so great that it's like, well, who cares if they're not doing anything great these days? Because again, the older stuff was so fantastic that I mean, you'll always have that. You can just watch it on repeat if you'd like, and that's what I do, especially when it comes to Star Trek. Um, Before I start that segment, a couple more people in the chat. We have Michelle Bowers, welcome. How's it going? We have Void Eyes, welcome. Thanks for being here. All right, let's play the little clip for this. All right. So the first item I'm going to recommend is actually a indie comic that is free for anyone if they're interested, by a friend named Jared Brickley, also known as Frost Comics. So let me pull this comic up here. Let's see. It's more complicated to share things these days on here, it seems. All right. So it's called Morning Star Chronicles: The Ghost of Ashcroft. So again, this is a free comic. If you were to go to Frost Comics Twitter, for example, you'd be able to get a link so that you can essentially just sign up so that you can get the free comic. But definitely a bold move to put out a free comic, right? Trying to get his name out there, get his property out there, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. I mean, obviously, you don't have to worry about shipping. You don't have to worry about waiting for it. It's just right there digitally. And I had talked to him here and there in DMs and stuff about his property because there's some similarities to mine in the sense that he has a really gritty vigilante, one that almost he struggles actually to maintain control, especially given the types of criminals and environment that he has to deal with. And so yeah, I definitely recommend folks check this out. Definitely has some really clean art. I do like this cover a lot with this reflection in the helmet here. again, just gives you that vibe of having a gritty vigilante here. The art definitely does a good job, especially obviously considering the price. I mean, this is something that I would say he should sell, right, for 10, $15 or something, if he wants to bring this to print in the future. But I would say the story, right, would justify a well-funded campaign, especially if in the future he wanted to like level up on the art, for example, because the character and kind of the vibe that he has going on in the story could be really complemented by certain artists. And I do think it's a really good property and story arc from this single issue so far that definitely has a lot of potential. But obviously you can see got some good violent action scenes, and to start out, one thing I thought that was really cool. You know, first off, this guy, he put in some effort, right, on a free comic. I mean, he had multiple editors. I mean, he had a full team on this, and we need more folks putting this much effort and attention into the stuff that they're printing, right? That would do a lot of justice for crowdfunding in general. But one thing I wanted to highlight here, which is really cool, he said in loving memory of his grandmother, and he's keeping a promise he made her a long time ago. So that's really really cool to see that, and that there's some deep roots to this comic for him. So definitely want to get this out in front of people and make sure that more eyes are on it. But we'll glance through some of the art here, some of the panels. I'm sure he won't mind again since it's free and all that. But yeah, I didn't count the. I think it's like 20. It looks like 25 or so pages. So decent page count for an initial comic here, but definitely a fun read. It had some really smooth dialogue, also some witty exchanges between him and his tech partner. That's essentially behind the scenes here. The one thing that I really enjoyed was the fact that his tech partner, right, could control like his bike remotely, and I love that because it just reminds me of Batman versus Superman, where Alfred takes over Batman's vehicles, drops him off, on like the third floor of one of those warehouses to take out, some of the criminals, and also reminds me of the kind of witty relationship that the accountant has with his partner in that film, which is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, really smooth, engaging story, some really great action scenes, and yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for growth for this property. So definitely check it out. Make sure that you go to Frost Comics Twitter, give him a follow. Also, go to his YouTube channel and subscribe. He's got some awesome videos and debates on there. He's actually been the moderator for the two debates that I've been in, which were a lot of fun. So definitely give him some support. So yeah, that's the indie comic for the week. I want to try to highlight an indie comic that I've read and enjoyed every week so that folks can either go back it or back an upcoming campaign and maybe pick up an older issue as a catch up tier. So just try to get more eyes on indie projects. All right. The next one is going to be a mainstream TV series. Now, this is a TV series that probably most people will not recognize. It came out, I think, when I was like a junior in high school, so it's like 2005. So yeah, 20 years ago. Sheesh, that makes you feel old. Um, so let me pull up some images here. So this TV series is called Everwood. So obviously, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to showcase is either related to comics or like action films, sci-fi. This was one that um, it's none of those things. It's a just really down to earth emotional story about a family that the father is like a genius brain surgeon, and he loses his wife, and all of a sudden, right, he's a single father to two kids, and he just makes a rash decision to basically move out to the middle of nowhere in Colorado and learn how to be a parent, but also still be involved with medicine and all of that. So it's got just a really heartwarming, family story and some really good character arcs. It was 4 seasons. Definitely deserved more seasons, but was you get a really complete story throughout the 4 seasons. Had some really good casting as well. One thing that you guys will probably notice if you look at some of the promotional images, Chris Pratt was in this. So from Guardians of the Galaxy, Jurassic Park, and all that. This was like his first like big role, I guess you could say. And yeah, he was really good in it, quite funny, which, as we know, he can do some pretty funny roles. But definitely suggest folks check this out. I don't know if it looks like it might be, yeah, it's free on Amazon Prime, but definitely a good show if you're looking for something that you could watch, with your family, and that would have some kind of meaningful, um, episodes and things that you could really connect with or relate to. So definitely check that out. Looks like we have a couple more people in the chat here. We have Benjamin Soto. Hail. Benjamin has an active campaign on Fund My Comics still, so definitely check out his work. And he also interviews indie creators, promotes them as well. And we have Katie Did. What's going on? Thanks for joining. She was kind enough to highlight actually a clip from last week's stream on her stream last night, and also highlight my campaign. So thank you again for that. And um, yeah, that was a good audio clip. Obviously, the video was horrendous thanks to the internet issues last week. But yeah, definitely appreciate that. It's great to have you here, and thanks for sharing links as well. We have Len Lurks More. I like that name. How's it going? Welcome. All right, and then let's go on to the next recommendation. So now going to do a mainstream film. I am a bit of a film buff. Definitely like to watch as many films as I have time for, which is not much time these days, but obviously back before having a kid and all that, I was in the theater quite frequently. So let me pull that up. All right. So this one is called Arrival. This one, it flew under the radar to a decent extent. It came out in 2016. I think this was one I saw in the theater at least twice. It was a time where I was just going to the theater constantly. It was the same time I started really getting, heavily into writing, going through a hard time, needed an outlet, distractions, right? And this was one I'm like, oh, looks unique. Had Amy Adams in it. Obviously, a huge fan of the Snyderverse. I'm like, oh, I'll go check it out. Didn't have high hopes by any means, but this one really impressed me. Essentially, it's about first contact with an alien race that arrives on Earth. However, it's not what you would expect out of such such a concept. Essentially, it's more about them trying to communicate with this alien race and understanding what their purpose is there. And this one, I wanted to have this and Everwood on the same segment, because this one, even though it's sci-fi, it's a super emotional movie. It's really deep. It's really layered. Um, it's just one of those films that has just a really good message when it comes to family. And like Interstellar, this is one that I have not watched since becoming a dad, because I know when I do, it's going to make me tear up. It's got some scenes that can really hit hard, and the music is absolutely beautiful. It's got one of my favorite composers in it, Max Richter. Folks that write novels, definitely check out his music on Spotify. It is fantastic to write prose while listening to his music. And this was directed by Dennis Villanueva, which, as we know, did the two Dune movies, which have been some of the best films in the last 5 or so years. So, just one of those directors like Nolan that they're going to go all out, and they're just really going to put in the detail and effort that should be expected when it comes to a blockbuster film. So yeah, definitely check this out. Looks like it's on Paramount Plus for the folks that have that. So highly, highly recommend this. Both this and Everwood are in the top 10 when it comes to films and TV series of all time for me. Let's check in on the chat here. Welcome, Johnny Douglas. How's it going? And yeah, Benjamin says good movie. And yeah, more about grief and appreciating what you have than it is about aliens. Exactly. And it has just like this eerie overtone when it comes to the kind of linguistics and the interactions between the humans and the alien race that makes it a mystery and suspenseful. But yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things about grief and yeah, just appreciating what you have. So very good messages in it. All right. Yeah, one of the other things I kept forgetting to do with the last couple streams is, when I pick up like a cool comic or collectible to talk about it or show it off. So a couple weeks ago, I was down in the city and checked out an old comic book shop that I really enjoyed. It was probably ten years or so before I had moved away from Michigan. But every comic shop I go to, I hunt for Pitt. So I was fortunate enough to get issue number 6 at this shop. So trying to get them all collected. So this one has a really gnarly cover, as always, when it comes to Dale Keown. So definitely excited to dig into that soon. And then, if you can't tell from the mask above me, and can't really see it real great in the lighting here, but this figurine back here, I'm a huge Deathstroke fan. His costume, his backstory, and the writing tied to him that Marv Wolfman did, just always been an absolute fan. Such a shame we didn't get to see him on the big screen more. Technically, we didn't get to see him on the big screen at all because they didn't show the Snyder cut. But nevertheless, picked up a really cool Teen Titans figurine here. I think it's from early '90s. So Deathstroke without his mask. So yeah, the new Teen Titans, the Judas Contract. So yeah, the Teen Titans comics were fantastic that Wolfman did. Definitely an underrated and a writer that we don't really hear about enough these days. So all right, now let's go into a little bit of promotion. So this one, I'm just going to pull up my campaign to start, and then later on we have 3 other indie projects that I want to pull up. So let me pull up my campaign. Do All right. As I'm sure everyone is aware of, Vigilantes Created is my campaign. That's 2 novels and mini comic about a gargoyle and a team of vigilantes fighting terror in Detroit. It's kind of, Hellboy meets Batman with a bit of Lovecraftian terror and horror tied into it. Similar to Arrival and Everwood in terms of, very deep layered story, a lot of emotional connections tied throughout there. So definitely, this is something that I think a lot of people that could relate to and connect to, but also get that escapism and that action and also violence that they may crave from content. So we're creeping up on 12K here on Indiegogo. We're at 1,500 on Fund My Comic. I am going to be closing this out in February, probably the last week of February. So would like to get to 12.5K on Indiegogo if possible. And if by some miracle I can get to 15K on here, that would be absolutely stellar. Every dollar that I raise on this is going to go towards the comic that is underway that I've been scripting and getting some character designs going for. So the more I raise on this, the quicker that comic will come to fruition and the more art you guys will see sooner. We have Edwin Buzz Acevedo in there. How's it going, man? Welcome. Another stellar indie creator here. We have Belmont. How's it going, man? So yeah, there's about 500 pages of prose between the 2 novels, and then there's a 15-page mini comic that introduces you to all the characters so that you know exactly what they look like, and it gives you depictions of some of the major scenes as well. So it's a more immersive reading experience versus a traditional novel, if you must. and it features some fantastic art by Corey Barton, as you can see here. So here's a sample page from the mini comic. As you can see, they're kind of like massive trading cards that are depicting scenes, so that again you can remember or have a reference to all that key information about them and play it out like a film in your mind when you're reading, because you know exactly what everything should look like. We also have some fantastic art by Skunk Artworks, who did a painted wraparound cover here, and this original art is still available. So check that out. That'll come framed. Would definitely like to get that out to a lucky backer. And then we had this awesome cover for the black and white mini comic, as well as the duology version, so the two-in-one novel by Joe Ball, and then also Elliot Rodriguez. So the one thing I added to the campaign today was the original art for this grimoire here, as well as the gargoyle print that all the physical backers receive. So let me refresh this. Should be up now. So this is actually going to be a original art bundle. So instead of unpacking all three pieces of his original art, repacking it, and all of that, I figured I'm just going to bundle it together so that I don't have to unpack it, risk damaging it, right? And I can make sure that it stays in perfect condition for the lucky backer that picks this up. So this is going to have this gargoyle print original art, which is 8.5 by 11. This grimoire art that is 11 by 17, as well as and one of the initial pages of the mini comic, there's this a double page spread of like basically a brick wall, right? Referencing stone, right? Gargoyle turning to stone. That original art is also in there. So it's three pieces of original art for just $250. So definitely would love to get that out to potential backers. So there's some original art left. We still have lunch boxes, puzzles, aluminum signs, posters, everything. Everything's in stock, ready to go. All right. So let's get into. Oh, we have one other new listener here. We have Blaze. Welcome. How's it going? Thanks for being here. All right. So let's talk about our main topic, and that is crowdfunding. How should it be used? Well, the answer a couple years ago would be obvious, and it essentially is the same answer today, right? Uh, a lot of people use crowdfunding, whether it's for tech items, consumable items, consumer products, or creative works, right? Like comics. It's for said creator to be able to get funding to bring that product or project to life, versus right just going right to retail, tossing it on Amazon, etc. Because those creators need investment funds, they need help again to bring it to life. And in a lot of cases, if that doesn't happen, such creations don't come to life. And so that seems kind of obvious, right? However, the narrative around crowdfunding has been shifting when it comes to specifically comics, not so much tech items, consumer products, right? Because right when it comes to toys, for example, if you want to do a figurine, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars because you have injection molds, you have large minimum order quantities that you have to run with these injection mold suppliers. So most people do not have tens of thousands of dollars just laying around to make a toy. Otherwise, we'd all have toys on our campaigns, right? That'd be amazing, but it's just not feasible. So that's a given there. But when it comes to comics, because of this recent push for pre-ordered books, I think a lot of people are getting a misconception that everyone is in the same position and should be able to do the same thing. Now, a lot of us would love to just be able to create a comic on our own dime, have it be affordable, the whole nine yards. But I think a lot of people don't realize how expensive it is to make a comic, right? You're not talking like a novel, for example. If I wanted to just release one of my novels, wouldn't be a big deal. right? For some folks, you might be talking a couple $100 in cover art, and then an editor, let's say total maybe $2,000, right? Toss it up on Amazon, boom, you're done. $2,000. A lot of people could raise those funds over the time that you're writing the novel, which could be a year, 2 years, right? Bring it to life. No big deal. Well, not many comics will only cost you $2,000, especially since you have to print them yourselves, right? You're not using a Barnes and Noble, a Amazon, for example, to print for you and then take a chunk of your royalties, for example. So for comic creators, you're talking 5, 10, 15, 20 plus $1,000 if you want to do a moderate quality to high quality comic, especially if you're doing right 48 pages plus. And what's happened is, some YouTubers, for example, have came into the space and done pre-order campaigns because they have disposable income at the ready to where all the costs covered, no problem, even if they don't get a lot of pre-orders. Unfortunately, again, that's not a luxury that most people have. And that's why crowdfunding is so crucial. It's the only way that you could realistically bring that book or that project to life. Because again, you're talking several thousand to tens of thousands of dollars that you need to raise. And so what's happening, and we're seeing this in pricing too a bit. They'll say, oh, well, and these are a lot of times new backers or new customers to indie comics. They'll say, well, comic creator A did this. Well, everybody should be able to do this, right? Well, it's like, no, because not everyone is in the same financial situation. Not everyone has the same Twitter following or the same number of YouTube subscribers, for example. The other thing, too, is we don't have a reasonable mainstream anymore, right? Folks can't submit their stories to the mainstream and have it judged based off of merit, based on the quality, based on the actual story. In a lot of cases, the creators are being judged based off of check boxes, right? Race, gender, sexuality. Um, the stories are being judged based off of how diverse they are, the characters, diversity, genders, so on and so forth, right? And this has obviously, especially with the surge in the past, 15 years with crowdfunding comics, that's made crowdfunding that much more crucial for folks that are passionate about comics and have a dream of bringing their comic to life. Because again, you can't rely on that opportunity with the mainstream. And even if you have a killer book, killer art, it there's a good chance it's not going to be judged the way it would have been 20, 30, 40 years ago. So again, that puts a lot of creators in a pickle, right? And that is, do I potentially put, my family's financial health at risk to fund it all in advance, and then if I don't sell enough, well, and we've actually heard of folks that have done that, and they've put a strain on their family and stuff, which is a horrible situation to be in. Um, or they're in this situation where they're like, well, I'm gonna have to cut cost in order to do pre-ordering, which means probably hiring lower quality artists, trying to again cut corners. There's a lot of ways you can cut corners in everything in life, and so you're sacrificing quality, and that's obviously a shame. That goes against hard work and the foundation that comics have been built on, as well as traditional novels. So it's really unfortunate again that this narrative has been being generated because of folks that don't understand the industry. They don't understand the process of creating a comic. And so their expectations are unrealistic. in a lot of cases. The other thing they're not considering are, for ex-pros, for example, or they're still professionals, but right, they're not working for the mainstream anymore. Their entire livelihood is based around their art. It's based around these projects. So they got to pay for health insurance. They got to pay for housing. They got to pay for everything as a result of their art. And if it takes them several months, if not year or years, to pump out the best book possible, I mean, how can you expect them to wait, right, to make the money back for all that time invested? They've got to find a way to support themselves and their families. And that's the beauty that crowdfunding that has provided, is that, hey, they can get that funding for that book that allows them to crank that work out, provide an awesome book to folks, and support their family at the same time. And I don't think a lot of these new indie customers or comic customers are putting those things into perspective and considering it. And even for folks that it's not their source of income or their livelihood, right? A lot of us work 9 to 5s and we do this on the side. Even if you want to do this on the side and you need to pay 10 plus thousand dollars, especially as a writer, right? You've got to cover the cost of everything. It's a little bit different if someone can draw their own book and all that, but there's still a lot of costs involved. You still got to print the books, all of that, right? Um, Not a lot of people have $10,000 of disposable income that they can risk, pulling away from their family or their safety net to create a comic. And I don't think folks should be expected to do that, especially if they're going into crowdfunding with the right intentions and the right approach to make sure that their backers are treated properly. And so, and the same thing's happening to pricing to an extent, right? That's why I did a video on our comics, indie comics overpriced, because some people are trying to reduce costs as almost a way of virtue signaling. Now, again, this is not geared towards the folks that have lowered their prices or became really competitive, right? They all have their own reasoning to do it. A lot of them, they just say, "Hey, I want to bring value to you. I want to be competitive, and hey, this is $5 or $10. Nothing wrong with that, right? It's on them to make sure that they're covered and protected. But some of the issue is some creators are coming in saying, "Hey, all of indie comics are overpriced. Everyone needs to get their price down. Look at my price. Look at how low it is compared to everybody else. Come back me," basically, instead of backing them. Like, "Hey, look at me. I'm doing it better than they are." And the same thing's happening with the pre-ordering to an extent. Some folks are like, "Hey, I'm able to do this in advance while you're going to wait a year for those folks. So you should come over to me instead of them." And it's like, that is not helping the community at all. Um, we should be trying to lift up everybody doing crowdfunding, whether it's pre-order style or traditional style crowdfunding, right? And that's really tainting the space, in my opinion. Are those folks with that narrative push for pricing as well as pre-ordering? Because again, we're trying to bring people to crowdfunding as much as possible, right? Everyone is so tailor-made to go to Amazon, right, for everything. They're not printing comics to my knowledge yet, right? But when it comes to novels and everything else, go to Amazon, free shipping, blah, blah, blah. It's easy. So, especially for novelists like myself, it's really hard to like, "Hey guys, by the way, crowdfunding exists. Remember you loved reading comics when you were younger? Hey, here's where you get indie comics." Right? They got to create an account, they got to pay shipping, right? It's not super easy to convince like the average person to come and support crowdfunding unless you personally know them. Because in a lot of cases that's an easy sale per se. These narratives are making it even harder to pull customers or readers into crowdfunding. And that's what's damaging the entire space. Now, some people might have their own website, so yeah, they don't have to worry about the whole crowdfunding aspect, especially if they're pre-ordering or doing a pre-order setup. And again, not knocking the pre-order setup at all. I essentially did that on my campaign. I was fortunate enough to be in a position to where I could just use money out of my paycheck, right, to cover it. And, I was able to hedge my risks and have no issues. Things worked out in the end. Not the case for everybody, though. So, no issue with people doing pre orders, having their own websites. By all means, that's fantastic. It's if you're trying to push a narrative that is trying to push people away from the other styles of doing crowdfunding or other methods, as well as pricing in order to garner your own backers or essentially try to uh forgot the word I was trying to think of here, but they're trying to make sure that they're keeping as many customers in their backyard and preventing them from leaving their backyard and visiting other backyards per se. So I'm not a fan of said narratives, obviously. So I'm going to pull up a tweet here that I think is quite relevant to the topic. Um, it's kind of going to be two pronged. The one prong is going to be folks that are doing crowdfunding and then later on putting a version of that book in comic shops, right? Because there has been a little bit of discussion around that on Twitter. And then it also leads into the topic of just this whole pushing for pre-orders for essentially on crowdfunding campaigns. So let me pull this up here. All right, let's check in on the chat. Sorry, I got on a little bit of a rant and I forget to look over there. We have one of my awesome artists here from the Vigilantes Creek campaign. We have Corey Barton. How's it going? Ah, and here is Frost Comics, friend of the channel, and the gentleman whose comic we took a look at earlier in the stream here. So he says, fashionably late. I can afford to pay for a 20-page or so comic out of my own pocket over the course of a year or two, but if I wanted to publish a 60-page plus story, I need crowdfunding to make it happen. Yeah, and that would be the case for most of us. And see, that's part of why I did what I did with my campaign. I would have loved to just jumped, headfirst into a full-blown comic campaign. Man, I've been itching to do that, right? But I didn't have much of a following. I did not have an established YouTube channel, and I just saw, throughout the landscape of some of the folks who were succeeding and the folks that were not succeeding on their campaigns. And you could tell which ones, right, had a YouTube presence, had a good following, had good interactions on Twitter, right, versus the ones that did not. And so I was like, okay, I need to be patient. And I have these novels done. I'm going to release these novels and just go with them again, a mini comic. Give folks a taste of the quality that they can expect, the style of art that they can expect in the future, and again, give them that visual aspect of the storytelling, right? Or the medium. And so I wanted to kind of marry the two mediums, give everybody the best of both worlds in a sense, and market it primarily to indie comic readers, which it's a tough sell, right? But I am so glad I did it that way because that helped me get ready to do YouTube streaming, get used to streaming with other folks, pitching my books, which that is always going to be difficult to an extent if you're an introvert. But um, it also allowed me to build my Twitter following, etc. Get myself enough confidence to do a full comic issue and hopefully raise more money than I expected so that I can put that directly towards the next campaign or comic, right? So that I have basically a springboard to get that going versus having to fully rely on backers, right? Initially. So, but yeah, there's a chance I might still need to get funding in advance. We'll see. But I'm glad that option exists. And I hate that some people are essentially trying to tell folks that, hey, folks should not be asking for backing money in advance. It should be done 100% before. And it's like, that'd be horrible if that option didn't exist. If crowdfunding didn't exist, all the awesome books that wouldn't be out there, and how, some amazing creators out there wouldn't have been able to grow the way they've been able to. So it's really disgusting how some folks are really trying to convince folks not to support crowdfunding or traditional style crowdfunding. Like, would you do that when it comes to tech items, right? Consumer products, right? All those people that go on Shark Tank, for example, right? Looking for investments and all that. Like, do you expect everyone to be sitting on money to be able to bring a dream to life? Like, come on, it's not realistic. All right, let's see. Yep, Frost is asking how the chat's going. And yeah, Len lurks more, costs a lot to make a comic. Costs even more when your artist disappears halfway through. Ooh, yeah. And see, that's one of the aspects we'll have to touch on, is the fact that, life hits people at different times and in different ways. We've seen creators who have had severe medical issues that have created delays. We've seen creators lose family members, right? Stuff that anyone should be able to sympathize with, and should not later on end up lumping them in with, hey, they're damaging crowdfunding or generalizing late books and all this bullshit, because it's like, the big two, they would just find a new artist, start over. They got plenty of money. They got literally a bullpen of line artists and inkers and colorists. We do not. And a lot of the indie creators, right, they're working on several projects. Like, it's not like this plethora of available creators, especially if you're extremely particular about detail or the style you're looking for. It's very, very difficult. And so, yeah, a situation like that, if you get burned by an artist, for example, and you've already got the crowdfunder, funded, that's tough, right? You gotta start over potentially with a new artist, or blend in their art. Like, yeah, that. But what could a writer do in that situation other than tell the backers, like, hey, this is the situation I'm in. Please bear with me. Frost says, I've only had one, maybe two people who just abandoned their projects and didn't finish. Everyone else have backed, has always honored their backers' trust. Yeah, I've only had one so far that looks like it may not get shipped. Otherwise, every single campaign has either been shipped, or right. I'm getting updates, and it's going to be coming. So I have no idea why I would blame anyone other than the person who abandoned their backers for that behavior. Yep. Even if the people were late, when they communicate with their backers, I can wait. Yeah, exactly. It's all about the communication. And yeah, if you want to have a chip on your shoulder, don't have it be with the concept of crowdfunding. Don't have it be with all indie creators. Don't generalize a group of people, right? Basic human shit. Um, just have a chip on your shoulder for that specific creator, or those creators that have burned you per se. Welcome, Jimmy Lumberjack. How's it going? Marcus Kelliger, welcome. Can't believe I actually have a lot of comments. I want to click on all of them. Yeah, really awesome to have this many people here watching. Very, very humbling, and I appreciate that, folks. All right. Jimmy says crowdfunding is the coolest to make art happen. In the 80s, these independent books would never get made. These are good times now using crowdfunding. Yeah, that's true. Exactly. There's some amazing video games that only exist because of crowdfunding. And given the budget of video games, they have to get a lot of money first. Yep, to fund the project. JJ Trujillo, welcome, man. Katie did said she'd kill me if I didn't show up. Yeah, it's another gentleman here that also writes novels. We'll have to have him on the channel here one of these days. He does some awesome clips for Trashcast and has an awesome stream. I think every Saturday or so he does one. But yeah, definitely go subscribe to his channel. Yeah. So Marcus highlights here, David Williams' wife is in hospice and he can't work on Fearsome right now. Yeah, he and EVS are unfortunately going to be killed for having a late book, in terms of how people are going to treat them. Unfortunately, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some agitators out there, as I call them, right? The scorned crowd of Twitter and YouTube that will take any opportunity to bash folks. But yeah, I mean, Jesus, that is a horrible, horrible situation. I pray that you know, for strength for his family and for him to get through this. And I don't know the details. There is I don't have the link readily available, but if you go to my page or go to David Williams's page, he has a link for I think like a GoFundMe. So everyone, please check it out. Give if you can. But yeah, that's an example, right? Shit happens. Horrible shit can happen that can put a project on pause. That yeah, everyone should have sympathy and understanding towards that. So, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up though, so that folks can go check out that GoFundMe, and yeah, let's definitely do what we can because yeah, David's a great member of the community, so let's help him out if we can. All right, so here we go. Let's go with this tweet here, uh, and then real quick we have Baki here. Yeah, welcome. How's it going? All right, so to start, this is a tweet that is, uh, in my opinion, I'd like to call it a propaganda page. I'm sure folks are aware of this agitator, but some good conversation or conversation points came out of this tweet, and so that's why I wanted to go through it. So here he says, Student of God says, the death of CG campaigns. She fan here. I will not be backing yours or anyone else's Indiegogo slash Kickstarter that does this. I will just wait and save money, probably save about 20 bucks per book and get it from the shop. From your local comic shop, probably about 15 bucks and three floppies. Nice grammar, but that's kind of his thing is horrible grammar. From Indiegogo, about $35. Okay. So essentially, the original tweet was him just notifying folks that this ebook is coming to comic shops, and seemed like Student of God jumped the gun on this, obviously to stir the pot, to agitate and get some of those Twitter interactions that some people are so desperate for. So I'm glad Billy responded. He said, "Hello, Student of God. The She Haikio campaign ended in 2020, so right 5 years ago, essentially, and was fulfilled in 2021. Our plan is to offer signed, superior quality OGNs with a ton of stretch goals exclusively to the crowdfunding partners. And then after 4 or 5 years, that larger book is broken down into multiple floppies, right, where dust jackets, sewn in book ribbons, and all of the premium aspects that folks get in crowdfunding will not be available, right? So he gives a really nice professional breakdown here. Fantastic response. And it's funny because there's some of these agitators that go really hard on like if you're not in comic shops, right? You're not a real comic creator or you're failing or blah blah blah. I'm not sure where Student of God stands on that whole position, but or that whole topic. But this is doing it right, in my opinion. Right, you have a premium book that you give to your backers. You have stretch goals that could be bookmarks, that could be prints. Right, you could have premium card stock, heavier paperweight, all those things. Right, a book that would look phenomenal for your crowdfunding campaign, and then later on, after everyone's received their books, right? Every backer is happy, you put it on the shelves of comic shops, and typically it's a more standard floppy. It's not going to be the same quality, and it's not going to have, in terms of paper and right appearance and all that, and it's not going to have all the extras that you would get from a crowdfunding campaign. This is very smart for Billy to do, and this is what a lot of pros do, and small creators like myself as well, right? We'll get books on local comic book shops, whether it's through consignment or they'll buy them directly from us, because, yeah, you do want to get it out to a wider audience, but you're not going to be able to charge crowdfunding prices. You're just not going to be able to. Um, and you also won't even be able to afford to print your books for comic shops. So, yeah, this is the way to do it. So, but very, very good response there. So let me see if I can find the. All right, so this is the telling reason for his tweet, right? This is the guilt by association that we've all came to hate and recognize so quickly. He says, I posted this because I heard from EVS recently that a lot of CG Kings are thinking about putting their books in shops. Not to pick on you or anything, except for he literally did by calling him out, right? Because almost all of his posts are to bring negative attention toward things. Obvious. Uh, but, anyways, it's really hard as a reader to justify the extra costs. If I was a collector, maybe I would feel different. That Rob, Liefeld cover is fire, by the way. So, this is there's some context that's missing to this whole, I guess, conversation here, and that's, well, the book wouldn't get in comic shops if it didn't come to life, and if we are relying on crowdfunding to bring it to life, hmm, it wouldn't get in comic shops, right? And that's what a lot of people forget. These projects, these IPs, wouldn't even exist without crowdfunding. Most people do not have the funds readily available to bring them to life. So he's just taking advantage of the fact that he had awesome backers that wanted to invest in his product. They wanted to have a premium book and all the extras, and then he puts it out to the wider audience. Absolutely nothing wrong with what he's doing here at all. And again, probably wouldn't even exist if there wouldn't be awesome crowdfunding backers that brought it to life in the first place. And this is why we need crowdfunding, especially as indies, because crowdfunding can give you that launch pad to get it into comic shops, to get bigger exposure, right? If you wanted to submit your property to the mainstream, right, or other independent publishers, that's because of the backers. And if these anti crowdfunding narratives get pushed harder to pull away potential new backers, but existing backers, you're not only hurting the creators, you're hurting the readers, you're hurting the audience because it will not get in front of an audience potentially. So, but again, he brings up EVS as always. The only reason he brought it up was he, in my opinion, he wanted to poke at EVS. This was his way of going through Billy to try to damage EVS. And Billy did absolutely nothing wrong here. He's been nothing but professional. But for some reason, he wanted to agitate and use Billy in order to do that. Why? Because of who he associates with. And this is the utter bullshit that is tainting the space right here. So let's see here. There was another part of this that I thought was really intriguing. And yeah, you have a lot of interesting comments. I won't go through all of them, but there was one specifically that I wanted to highlight. This is just an just completely off the wall response, in my opinion. And again, just the hyper focus of some of these folks on a individual creator is just wild. I'm blocked by him. Have no idea why, but probably for the best. Said EVS's BS has tarnished crowdfunding for indie comics. I have many great ideas for indie comics, and I already have an illustrator on board to help draw, etc. But how am I going to get funding when people are now afraid to it's supposed to say because of what EVS did to this. It is now impossible. Talk about being dramatic, right? Um, Crowdfunding still exists. There's absolutely no reason that folks can't get funded or raise money. I'm an example. Patrick Quinlan here in the chat is an example who just got his book funded. Corey Barton, right? All these folks have gotten their books funded. It's still possible. All he has to do is market himself, have a desirable book, and network. The problem is some of these folks are literally kneecapping themselves when it comes to networking, right? Because they don't like one particular creator that is in a group. So they're going to purposely disassociate from that entire group. That group is not just creators and some fantastic creators, right? CG. It's thousands and thousands of backers. So you want to market yourself away from thousands and thousands of backers? Maybe that's why it seems impossible because you have some fantastic fans and backers that would back a great book, especially if said creator isn't going around bashing other creators, which is essentially what's happening in this thread, right? It's just completely absurd. EVS has delivered on every single book. He does keep folks updated. Folks understand why he's quote unquote late, right? And in a lot of cases, you end up getting a lot more bang for your buck. You get an extra, you know, 20, 30 plus pages and a lot of those extra premiums. But regardless of your opinion on that, to think that all of crowdfunding has been damaged because of one person is wild. Well, go on Kickstarter then. He's never used Kickstarter, right? That's an entire potential audience, right? So just create a killer book. Make sure you can pitch it properly. You should be fine, right? That just seems like a cop out to me. So this was actually the tweet response that I wanted to highlight in the end. And this goes again more towards the whole pre-order narrative right around crowdfunding. So that's in response to that previous reply that I had read. So this person says, agreed. The only way to get people back to creating crowdfunding campaigns now is to have the book 100% done before launch. People are tired of getting screwed over. I've backed at least 200 crowdfunded books. 20% fulfill on time, 50% late, and the other 30% goes to their backers. So if 30% of them actually ghosted him, of course, that's horrible, right? If those are books from years ago, they stopped giving updates and it looks like they're never going to fulfill, absolutely, that's shitty, right? And at least you can in the future avoid those creators, right? Minimize your future risk. You could decide to just back creators that have a history of fulfilling, right? Regardless of if they're again late or not. So I don't understand again why you would essentially take it out on the entire crowdfunding space. And if you expect folks to have the book 100% done in advance, well, they don't technically need to crowdfund then, right? They can just build their own website. They likely should have the money then to build their own website. But then again, you're pulling away from those crowdfunding websites and we should be really thankful that they exist, right? Because it sounds like, right, 140 or so books that he got wouldn't have happened without crowdfunding. So unless all 140 of them were shit, which I highly doubt, I don't know how he could not want to continue to back crowdfunders, or he wouldn't be thankful to an extent that he backed crowdfunded campaigns. Um, if folks didn't do crowdfunding and these sites didn't exist, I mean, he'd probably end up having maybe 20 books to purchase because most folks wouldn't be able to afford to do this pre-order approach. And again, I've seen a lot of different comments and thoughts in this same vein of, well, again, creator A and B, they're doing pre-orders. Why can't everybody else? Well, again, some folks are sitting on a lot of money, or they have a pre-cultivated audience, whether it's through YouTube, Twitter, right? You name it. It's going to be a lot easier for them in so many different ways than just an average Joe who has no following that wants to bring a book to life, or even an ex mainstream creator. So I hope that that 30%, right, are just, maybe there's some of those in there that are late for valid reasons and eventually they'll receive them. But um, this type of narrative does not help crowdfunding. It does not help indie comics. Having crazy expectations that, hey, people should have several thousand, if not tens of thousands of dollars available, or they should risk taking loans, or this, that, or the other, or they should have to reduce the quality of their book or reduce their page count, right? Minimize the potential essentially of their creations in order to fit this pre order model is just, it's unfortunate. And I hope that it doesn't convince other people to have the same mindset essentially. And again, this goes in the same thing. It's in the same vein as the whole pricing discussion of, yeah, but this person, they offered this book at this price. Everyone should be able to offer it at that price. And again, these might be folks that they don't understand the space, they don't understand the cost. So they just have this kind of normie consumer approach of, well, if A can do it, B can do it. And it's not that simple. Project A that was, let's say, $10, for example, right? Maybe the page counts in total were a third of project B, right? Maybe it was half the page count, right? There's all these different variables that go into the pricing. And so you should not peanut butter spread a expectation across the entire space that, hey, every book needs to become cheaper. Every book needs to be $10. Yada yada yada. That's absurd. Every book is different, different quality, um, different team, all of that. So it's not a simple discussion. But yeah, there's just so many comments in here that are interesting that you could have conversations around. Would probably take hours to read through all of them, but you have folks saying that yeah, the crowdfunding approach has been abused by too many, in quotation marks, artists for whatever reason: laziness, business issues, talent changes, printing issues, personal issues. Most can understand the issues that can arrive. If the campaign owner is transparent, responsible, and responding. Problem is, good faith has been abused by too many, especially for people who have been in the space for years. One bad apple can indeed spoil the bunch. It turns out crowdfunding is good in theory, but not in the way it's been applied. See, I can't agree with the whole one bad apple can spoil the bunch. It's pretty easy. Throw out that apple if you don't like that apple. Stop backing that person's campaign. Stop following what they're doing. Find a different creator to support. The problem is there are folks that are obsessing over said creators that they think are bad apples and just hyperfixating on them for years. You don't like how one campaign was ran? just move on. Don't support that creator, right? Or wait until they put it on eBay years later or whatever. But it's wild to then push a narrative around the entire space that a lot of artists are abusing their backers. A lot of artists are potentially lazy, things of that nature, because that's not the case. I mean, look at the recent surge just in the CG space of creators that have came in aggressively with great timing on their books and have had awesome customer service, right? You have Aaron, Immortal Rising, right? He's cranked out Immortal Rising 1, fulfilled in a very quick fashion. You had Hojo, you have Patrick, you have myself, you have Richard Ombre, right? The list goes on and on and on. Even the big guys, right? Shane Davis, Graham Nolan, Mike Barron. There are a ton, I think all of the folks that I interact with um, are, are fantastic apples. Um, so just because you might not like one, you should not be judging all of them as a result. That's absurd. So so yeah, that was the main item there I want to discuss. But it's yeah, it's unfortunate. And for folks that are new to the channel, I have done individual videos on such topics. So I have one in regards to quantity versus quality. I have one on the anti-crowdfunding narratives from probably 6 months or so ago that applies exactly to this, and also one in regards to pricing. So, all right, let's check in on the chat here. Speaking of which, Mr. Patrick Quinlan, welcome. How's it going? All right, and we have Violent Comics. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Crowdfunding usually sells graphic novel that are 3 times as many pages. Yeah, in some cases that is true. Yep. Rippaverse comics are like 80 pages and still cheap. Mhm. See here. Jimmy the Lumberjack says exactly 100%. I can't sit on the sidelines and not back creators. Otherwise, I will never get a chance to see the work. Yeah, it's. I think there are a lot of crowdfunding backers, right, that are just used to how certain creators manage their campaigns. They accept it, and they love the creator and their creations so much that, yeah, they may be willing to wait a year, 2 years, 3 years. There's been plenty of folks too that are not big names, or that don't have agitators on their back, that they're taking years as well, but nobody's complaining about them. Why? Because the agitators can't get attention by creating about them, or won't create a big enough buzz. They won't get enough engagement, right? There's a reason behind focusing on certain creators. Otherwise, right, wouldn't they be calling out every single one? If they really were that passionate about the space and think it's damaging it that much, wouldn't they go and start a YouTube channel, start talking about it? Uh, wouldn't they just do a campaign themselves? A lot of these folks act like they are like experts on comics. They act like they know the ins and outs, that they could do it better. But for some reason, they don't do it. It's like, come on. If you're going to complain about these guys nonstop, take digs at them, show them up, do it better, right? I mean, that's why some indie creators are indie creators. They saw some of the slop that the mainstream was putting out. They're like, I want to do it better. I'm going to put my money where my mouth's at, and I'm going to do it better. And in many cases, that happens. So I don't understand why some of these agitators don't do that as well. They treat us, or they don't treat me. I don't want to say, even though Student of God has done like a 23, um, 23 tweets about me, like a thread or a continuation chapters of like 23 or so about me. And I'm a really small creator in the space. It's like, but they treat some of those bigger names in the indie space like they're the mainstream, you know? So come on, show them up, do better. Yep. Yeah, that's what I said when I saw some of those responses and such. Frost Comics. So I assume anyone upset that about she being put in the comic shops cheaper than crowdfunding campaigns was frothing at the mouth with rage at Eric July's $5 sale. Yeah, that came up. That thread was quite deep, but somebody did bring that point up, and bingo, right? You want to talk about having folks overpay, right? Releasing a comic at what, $35, and then within a couple of years doing a sale and selling it for $5, 1/7 of the price, but you don't bat an eye. However, someone releases a less premium, smaller version into comic shops 5 years later at, let's say, like $10, $15 maybe, maybe a third of the cost. Oh no, it's horrible. How could you do that? Like, are you shitting me? Like a $5 sale? Um, and we're not talking a retailer doing a $5 sale, right? Maybe they just had overstock. It's different if a retailer does it. Right, we're talking like a comic shop, but when the actual creator themselves, like I can't imagine in a year, uh, having a website and being like, "Hey guys, Vigilantes Creed is $5." When you, depending on the perk you chose, you paid 20. Holy crap! Talk about uh, slapping your backers in the face and risking losing them. Obviously, like I can't imagine that. If I ever release different versions, um, of Vigilantes Creed novels to retail, they will not be the same books. They are going to be smaller in size. They are gonna the paperweight's gonna be lower. The cardstock is gonna be thinner. They will not have the best lamination. The font's gonna be small. It's not going to be a premium book that could be a collectible or something that you would be as proud of putting on your shelf. Why? Because we can't afford to print at those prices, and we have to go, especially novelists, a lot of cases have to go through Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and stuff. And I've received books from them where the text is slanted like crazy, lamination's all messed up, the packaging is horrible, but I mean, they're definitely not that cheap, even though some folks do wild sales, especially for digital on Amazon, like dollar sales are free, which I just could never devalue my story or my characters like that. Like I know the worth of my story and my characters. I absolutely love them. I would never want to even have the optics of, yeah, it's only worth a couple dollars. Like, are you kidding me? I poured thousands of hours into this property. There's no way I'm going to do that. It just, nope. I will bet Gohan creates Prometheus Creations made that tweet post from his bed as he has given up and has no fight. For some, it doesn't come easy and it will never get done. Yeah. And that's the thing, it's never easy for smaller or new creators. It just isn't. It was not easy for me. Um, you put in a lot of time, money, and effort into an indie project. The only time it might be somewhat easy is, again, if you have a pre-cultivated following, where you could pretty much sell anything and the people are going to buy it. But that's for folks that are YouTube stars or you know are famous essentially. That's not for most indie comics at all. Patrick says, Frost, I can't speak for the other people, but I can't stand when you crowdfund a comic to people and they take that same book and sell it cheaper in storefronts like Razor Fist, a lot, but that, pissed him off. Yeah. And Student of God and Razor Fist himself tried to drag me for when I made a comment in regards to Razor Fist releasing his, I think it was the black and white version on Amazon before the backers that backed his colored version received their books. I found out later on that yes, there is like a lower page count. There's not some like extra like scripting pages or something, right? So it was shorter. However, I didn't like that he didn't offer that more affordable version that's just like the story, right? Shorter page count, um, cheaper alternative to his backers personally, just because I mean his books were not cheap on the campaign, but in my opinion, you should never make it readily available in retail before the backers receive all their books. Even if, right, if the color version backers have not received their books, you should not be putting it on Amazon, regardless of the version. Because there was the reason I said something was because I saw a bunch of backers actually being like, "What the hell? I'm seeing all these people receiving shipments from Amazon, being like, oh, I got my book. This is great. Like, but where's mine?" Seemed like he jumped the gun in my opinion, and I don't understand why. Well, it may have been because, as we later found out, that the campaign may have not been as um, financially beneficial as expected because of some shipping issues or whatnot, and so maybe they're trying to get more sales through a different avenue. Can understand that, but at the same time, in my opinion, all of the backers should have gotten any of the versions of the books before it was available on Amazon, cheaper, free shipping, right? So, which is exactly why I don't have my books on Amazon and Barnes and Noble right now, right? Because it's on crowdfunding sites. So, all right. He said that's a perfectly valid position to have, Patrick. Not even one I disagree with. I just feel like perhaps there may be some inconsistency by the party under the microscope right now. Hmm. Yep, no, that's understandable. Yeah, yeah, and that's a tricky situation that a lot of people can be in is, do you reduce the page count? Do you, go to lower cost countries for your art or whatever, because you're afraid that you may not be able to raise enough. And another thing I didn't bring up is we're in quite a conundrum now in crowdfunding because years ago it was like a gold mine, right? It was like a gold rush of folks just getting backed and raising a lot of funds and putting realistic funding goals. Um, but because the space has become so oversaturated with creators, and it's became more competitive to an extent, well, there's a lot of people that are not putting their real goal, right, in order to recover their costs. Because yeah, I mean, if it costs somebody 15, $20,000, that is not easy to achieve these days, unless you have a really good network. Again, YouTube presence, Twitter following, all that, right? So a lot of folks are putting half of what they really need to receive, maybe even less. I even did that. 5,000 was not my real goal, but I didn't want to put too high of a goal and risk not being able to go in demand because I was banking on going in demand and trying to maximize, getting backers in demand, which fortunately I did put the lower goal, but if I wouldn't have hit that goal, that would have been really tough. I would have had to do like a second chance campaign, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of folks get in a tricky situation where they put a goal that's much lower than what they really need to reach. They hit it and they need to fulfill, but they may have to take a lot longer to fulfill now because they didn't raise near enough, right? They may need to do a second chance campaign or something. And so that's difficult. And it's a predicament, I think, for a lot more creators than the audience realizes. The folks that know, like, yeah, I'm going to get 500 or 1,000 backers, like they can put a really low goal and it's not much of a risk. But for new creators, it's really hard to choose a backing goal and it can put you in a pickle. Yes, good comment here. Void Eye says they're fans of convenience before they're fans of comics, it seems. Digital PDFs have somewhat solved that issue. My assumption is it's just to create a reaction. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yep. Yeah, Corey says Immortal Rising is cool. Yeah, the first one in my first, yeah, I think it was the first BA or Dark Horse Discourse. I recommended Immortal Rising one. It was a great read, really, really fun, great action, great dialogue, and beautiful art by Jose Garcia. That book, it did hit its goal, but it should have been five figures. You can pick up the second one on Fund My Comic and possibly still Indiegogo. I back that. Really excited for that. So check out that stream. Go to Fund My Comic, Indiegogo, and just put in Immortal Rising. Highly recommend that. And yeah, even more praise. Yeah. All right, Andrew Rowland, welcome. Thank you for being here. So he says, I'm trying to get the first volume of King of Justice finished and then try to get it published by a big publisher and get them on Barnes and Noble shelves. Yep. Yeah. And that's an approach as well that you can try to do. Definitely no harm in trying that. And the nice thing too, like what Billy did, like what I might do is, you get the crowdfunder, you get the funds so that you can make sure that you have killer art, right? Not only do the backers get the phenomenal, premium books, but you get the endless material, marketing material with that art, right? So if you can raise the funds that you need to make sure that you have top-notch art that you can then use later on to put it in retail or catch the attention of a larger market, that's again the beauty of crowdfunding, even for novelists, right? To be able to raise that money so that you can up your game on art is fantastic because especially for novelists, right? If you're going through Amazon out, you're getting a very small royalty. It's going to take a lot of sales to recoup your costs. But if you can market your book well, pitch it, and at least recoup the cost of your cover art beforehand, and then reward your backers with some premium books, like that's the way to go because then, like for my book, right? Those awesome covers that Corey did, that Skunk did, that Joe did, like those are just a gold mine of marketing material for me. And if I end up putting the books on an Amazon later on in a different format and lower quality, I mean those covers are natural marketing material. So yeah, Patrick, same thing. Said he'd have to tell the story in a smaller number of pages again. Yeah, because it's not easy to fund a book. It's not easy to afford creating an indie comic. So yeah, we're always in a predicament of page count. You aren't as a novelist, which is great. You can do 100,000 words, do 500 plus pages. It's just it equates to your time. There's no like tangible cost to it. I mean, later on with the editor there is, but you can just keep writing. You can keep writing. But for a comic, it's like yeah, we'd all love to go with a 100-page graphic novel or something to the extent of what Watchmen ended up being in the end, but it's not reasonable, unfortunately. But we'd love to. Yep, yep. Start small, build from there, learn from your mistakes, learn from your previous campaigns, and grow. And that's what Patrick did. I mean, he over doubled his numbers in his second campaign compared to his first campaign. So he was a fantastic example. Same with Immortal Rising and Richard Ombre again. So all right, so let's get into some promotion. I'm never had this many comments. This is awesome. We'll have a couple more to show, but yeah, let's hit some promotion of other comics. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough again to have so many folks highlight my books through streams, tweets, and all that. And I never had the time to do my own YouTube channel until now, fortunately, just once a week essentially. But I want to give back. I want to be able to do what others have done for me and try to, again, showcase indie creators that are using crowdfunding for the right reasons and in the right way and even in the traditional manner. So, I want to help help others grow as well, not just myself. I think that's how we can rise above and try to get the attention of a wider audience. And again, the only way to really do that is that everyone gets exposure to wider eyes. So, all right, let's see here. First one we're going to pull up here is Black and White Volume 3 by R.T. Bear. Let's see here. All right. As folks know, art is, used to work in the mainstream. Um, I think he was also involved with like Rob Liefeld and Image and all of that early on. But really professional, well-spoken guy. Just a really good representation of the space. One of those pros that definitely has earned and deserves support. He also brings folks on his channel. I've seen him promote a lot of guys. He's shouted out my campaign on his show in the past, which is really appreciated. And that was way back when I had a sign up and felt really, really fortunate, right, to have one of the big names shout me out. Want to try to give back in any way I can. This only has 4 days left. He's at just over $23,000 here. Has a couple different variant covers here. He has one by Dan Lawless, and I believe there also is a John Malin one as well. So definitely a lot of covers to choose from, and he also has some catch-up tiers is here for volume 1 and 2. But yeah, this has been around for 30 years. He has some awesome original cover art here as well. I think that's the Dan Lawless piece there. That's got the original art. Yeah, I mean, he's got some books here for 15, 25 for the new volume 3 here. So definitely some affordable options. All right. Let's see here. So yeah, he said, during the early 90s, he was given the opportunity to publish his first independent comic through Image Comics. Black and White made their first bombastic appearance in 1994 with a 3-issue miniseries that sold over 500,000 copies. Damn. Now we're celebrating Black and White's 30th anniversary, and we have some surprises in store for this campaign. Awesome. Right, Sins of the Father. All right, so Volume 3 is written by Art T. Bear, Aaron Sparrow, and Pamela Thibert, with action-packed breakdowns done by the awesome Alan Patrick, with dazzling finishes by Art T. Bear, and beautiful colors by Brian Magne. This 64-page graphic novel is one you'll find in your library that you'll want to find in your library of comics. But yeah, beautiful art, beautiful colors, especially. Damn. Yeah, really nice looking campaign here. 4 different covers. Yep, you have Carlo Barberi, John Malin, and some Art T-Bear covers. So I misspoke. Yeah, not a Dan Lawless cover. But that does kind of look like his style, though. So yeah, definitely check this out. Would definitely recommend getting the catch-up tier if you haven't yet. But again, great guide to support in the space. Let's play the trailer here. And I think I have the audio working. Awesome. All right, let's pull up another campaign. So the second one I have here is a Saga of Sunsets by Luke Stone and AC Pritchard. So let me get this pulled up here. Right. So now I think a lot of folks know who Luke Stone is, of course, one of the founders of Fun My Comics. So yeah, this one is up on Fun My Comics. So this one also gives folks a chance to support a small business and a new crowdfunding site. So the more the merrier. This one is creeping up on $1,000 here, and this is something for a fan of orcs. Um, Obviously has some vibes in it from like World of Warcraft and Lord of the Rings. So, Saga of Sunsets is a gritty adventure fantasy that dives into fatherhood, power, ambition, and morality set within the grim world of Archaea. Here, there will be Vikings, orcs, flying ships, mystery, symbolism, and yes, dragons. So, yeah, I think he pulled in a lot of like Viking and Norse mythology. It's going to be a 72 plus page full color epic, and yeah, follows the story of him and Horfist. And yeah, if folks that know Luke Stone recognize his art here, very affordable prices in regards to the page count for a new creator here. AC is a great guy in the community as well that promotes others and is a good voice for indie creators, and Luke obviously as well. So definitely go check this out. There's also a digital version available as well, for only like $10. So yeah, support some more smaller creators. Let's play the trailer here. All right.
Him in Harvest stands tall, frozen visage cold as ice. With the evening star he flies, through the storm's haunting cries. Archer of the frozen lands, king's own vow place within his hands. Succession, destiny calls, in the twilight he stands. Hear the horn sound so clear, hear the war cry no regrets. Every fight brings destiny nearer, a saga of sunsets. Saga of sunsets. Now fields of frost and flame, in his heart rich fire and pain. On his path, the legends claim the echoes of his name. Mountain peaks his eyes survey, northern sun's fate to pray. Kingdom calls a break of day, you claim his boldness, come with me. Hear the horn sound so clear, hear that war cry no regrets. Every fight brings destiny nearer, a saga of sunsets. Saga of sunsets. Saga of sunsets.
Cool. And yeah, they have Critical Blast involved as well, which is awesome. So great resource there for the indie community. And then one more campaign I wanted to highlight is Richard Hombre's, or as I call him, Richard Hombre's Blood and the Sword, issue 2. Um, Unfortunately, yeah, last week my internet was horrid, but I did do a BA recommends in regards to his issue 1, which was really fun. Had a lot of witty humor, and it was just a cool adventure story about two buddies. And yeah, I definitely recommend you guys pick up that one as well as the second issue. Yep, Richard Hombre. That one's sticking. All right, let me share the screen. So yeah, Richard, he just hit his let me refresh this. He just hit his 3K stretch goal, which is awesome. So now I believe there's going to be a trading card by Mint Salad as well. So that's very cool. Um, yeah, I think his next stretch goal is $5,000. I don't know if he's announced what that stretch goal is going to entail, but I'm quite confident he's going to reach it. He's definitely been on a tear here, even compared to his first campaign. And yeah, this is a $5 comic again. But he's one of those guys that, again, he is just trying to be competitive, offer great value to his backers, and wants to get his story out there. And he has it formalized to where he can do this without losing money and also making a profit. So he's definitely reducing costs in a manner that is smart and also respectable to the community, right? Which I appreciate. So but yeah, really enjoyed the story in the first one, as I mentioned. Some great art, great colors. I think he's also upped the leveling on the art in this book compared to the first. So this is a direct continuation of issue one. So I mean, obviously, you can pick up both the first and second issue for a total of $10, and I think the shipping might only be $5. So I mean, you just can't beat that. There's no reason not to pick it up. So definitely go check this out. It's a 20-page, fully colored comic, and yeah, filled with action and humor. Valen and Mango find themselves waiting for payment in a kingdom in chaos, while Amara is being asked to help with an impossible task that could cost the lives of everyone she knows and loves. Don't miss out on this fan favorite comic. And yeah, free trading card for the first 100 physical backers. This is a dope drawing here. I love this one. That's Mango there. He also has shirts for only like $20 as well. So, and yeah, they already got this free trading card for hitting the 2K stretch mark. There's going to be another trading card now that they've hit 3K. So, and he also gives the first 5 pages as a preview, which is awesome. So, and that's something I'm glad I did, even as a prose writer, is just give that sample right there in the campaign, so they can get a taste of your story and your characters. So let's play that trailer real quick. Now that I'll have sound this time. The first time I promoted it, I didn't have the sound figured out because I was a noob to the streaming thing. So here we go.
In a world where danger lurks around every corner and adventure has no bounds.
And it's prized possession, by the way.
What are you talking about?
You said prized possession. It's prized possession.
You seem to notice everyone's flaws but your own.
Our two heroes return to a kingdom in chaos and a prince whose life's in grave danger.
Something I said?
Possibly.
Their only way to survive is to work together.
You ain't never had a friend like me. Believe that. Cause you ain't never had a friend like me. See, at night I watch the sky. I take another breath. I smoke my Newport to the butt like it's the last motherfucker left. Just me and you evading enemies. Let you get my last shot of Hennessy. Ain't never
Blood
had a
and the
friend like me.
Sword 2,
Remember memories so
exclusively on funmycomic.com.
Yeah, and he has a kind of an inside joke there at the start there about the prized possession thing because he's one of those creators like myself and Patrick that we've dealt with some of that guilt by association nonsense, and both me and Richard ironically had some of the same reviewers or critiquers that had some kind of absurd I don't know, viewpoints in regards to our books. And yeah, they really honed in on just one small typo. So I like how he threw that into the camp or into the trailer there. So that was funny. But yeah, definitely go support Richard. Pick up these books. Definitely a great book, great story. I will vouch for it myself. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So, and yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Um, again, humbled to have this many folks tune in, and I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation or the discourse. And yeah, I'll be back next Tuesday. And yeah, please share, like, subscribe. If you have any questions for me, feel free to shoot away or leave them in the comics or the comments. Definitely want to use YouTube as well as an avenue just to get to know my backers, potential backers, and you know let people get to know me a bit. I think it's good for the audience to connect with with creators that they support, get to know them, and I think it kind of gives a nice rounded relationship to the whole crowdfunding world. So, but yeah, thank you everybody, and have a good rest of your night. Take care and God bless.